Hello, everyone. We are a couple of days before the Capricorn Full Moon, which is going to be exact on the 13th of July. The London time is 1937-ish. You can calculate the exact time at your place. And full moons are always about completion, about harvesting, about some sort of arriving at a some sort of closing as well, but there's always some fruit to be picked, and usually the fruits are started anywhere to grow. And the problem with the Capricorn full moon is that the moon is in exile, is in its detriment, and in most astrological schools, a detrimental planet is always negative. It doesn't function too well. In comic astrology, we say that if you find a planet in its own sign, it's very, very strong, and the native can utilize it for his or her own self. But a planet in detriment is something that you can only utilize for others. Now, the problem with Capricorn is, the Capricorn moon, is that that's your soul. It's your spiritual essence. So how are you going to be utilizing it for others? It's very, very difficult. So it's a difficult full moon, but at the same time, if you look at the energy pattern, it has some nice features as well. So here it is for London, and so Sagittarius is rising. By the way, this Sagittarius 28 degrees is at the galactic center. So for London, it's quite an important feature. And what struck me as relevant are the many midpoint structures. If you are aware of midpoints and if you use them, you probably know that it was Reinhold Ebertin and the Hamburg school and the cosmobiologist who started developing and using this technique. It's simply what it says, that you can have a relationship between two planets either when they are in an aspect, in any kind of aspect situation or configuration, or when there's no aspect between the two, but a third planet is at their midpoint. And of course, there are many midpoints, not just one. A straight line has one midpoint, a circle has two, and a sphere has four. So, and then you can even use the midpoint of midpoints. So actually, you can go as high as the 8th harmonic and even higher. There's a whole school for this. I love midpoints, but I treat them in a little bit differently. I don't think that they are negative in any ways. Again, a T-square is also a midpoint structure, but that's a T-square. So whenever there is a configuration, I treat it as such. And the really relevant midpoints are these ones that I'm going to show you in a minute, which don't have actually, there's no aspect structure between the two. Even when you could say these are conjunctions, and they are, but still the midpoint structure is more important in this case. Let's start with the sun, where you have actually, it's not Mercury and Lilith. It's Mercury and Lilith, but the sun is also kind of drawn into it. And the Mercury-Lilith conjunction is at the Ceres Black Moon midpoint. Ceres is the nurturing principle. The Black Moon is the goddess, the returning goddess who goes back to the Garden of Eden because she needs to teach Eve a couple of things. And this is the banished goddess energy who goes back to where she has been banished. So it's for that you need to have courage, also clairvoyance to know that you are needed, and also endurance and stamina. So it's a very strong archetype, and to do what's right. And here we have a very important message in this placement. We need to do what's right for our families, our home, and we need to do it in a smart way. And yes, we need to revolt against injustice. At the moment, if you look around in the world, you can see that there are cretins who are leading the whole world, idiots, complete idiots. I can never actually tell whether these are complete idiots or crooks, or both, probably both, because they are doing very idiotic things. I'm very sorry for the Ukrainian people. I think war is always horrible and always bad. This war could end in 2 seconds if the world leaders wanted this to end. Instead, they are fueling it. They are pouring money and weapons into the Ukraine, into a war which they cannot win. They cannot win. Look at world history. Look at Russia's part in these world events, and you will see that no one has ever defeated Russia, only the communists, but that's a different story. Okay, maybe that's what's going to happen again. Okay, in Uranus at the same time is at the midpoint of the North Node dark moon. Now the dark moon Lilith is the middle portion of the Lilith myths, when Lilith goes away from the Garden of Eden and takes upon herself Yahweh's curse. And this archetype symbolizes the notion or the behavior pattern that I will do whatever I have to do, and I don't care if you're going to curse me. And this is what we need to do to make changes for the better. And this is the North Node Taurus suggests that we need to create harmony and security, financial and harmonious security. This is our task in these 1.5 years when the North Node is in Taurus. And instead, we are blowing it up. And if you utilize the Uranus energy to change stuff in what we don't really like or we don't really can rule, we should do it even if we are going to be cursed. Now, there's another structure at the midpoint of which is Chiron. It's the Jupiter Aries midpoint. Jupiter blows up everything it touches. Unfortunately, the negative things as well. So the war, Aries, could escalate. Drastically altered outward circumstances could escalate. And this is exactly what you see in the world. Gas prices are skyrocketing. Food prices are skyrocketing. There's a shortage in everything, from baby formula to bread in the world in general. And this is going to be painful. So that's what's happening, unfortunately. And then you have the Neptune, Juno, Astraea midpoint structure, where it is Astraea, which is at the midpoint of Juno, Neptune. In normal, regular charts, Neptune is your ideas, it's universal love, it's clairvoyance, it's also all kinds of esoteric images or thoughts or patterns. And Juno is the wife archetype, the first lady archetype. In a man's chart, Juno describes the type of woman that he will choose as a partner, as a life partner, whereas in a woman's chart, it signifies you, yourself, as the partner, the way you will behave as a partner. In mundane charts, Neptune is ideology, and Juno is alliances, making connections, making alliances, pacts. This shows that there is an ideological pact that needs to be completely changed. We need to break old embedded karma around an ideology and old outdated alliances. So that's going to be interesting by all means. Okay, this is the crown. That's why I call this whole full moon a crown full moon, because we do have a crown. It's the two luminaries, and Mercury and Lilith are also entering the picture, of course, and then the nodal axis. This gives us a mystic rectangle, and the crown is formed by a triple conjunction and also a midpoint structure of Neptune, Juno, and Astraea. That's the crown, the tip of the crown, so the crown jewel, actually 3 crown jewels. Now this is a feminine crown because it is formed in feminine signs, water and earth. So actually, this is some sort of feminine ruling, reigning, some sort of feminine energy that can overpower what is going on in the world. And with this new covenants, new alliance, that we need to break the old stuff and renew it. That would be interesting. And we will see what's going to happen. Here we have the transcendental objects. Let's take a look at them. The sun has 3 asteroids and the fixed star Castor, which is Alpha Gemini, is linked to all sorts of art and artistic endeavors and the artist archetype, the successful artist archetype. So Sun Castor is always very fruitful. You can create. You're very creative, very fruitful. So that's good. Akhenaten, Persephone, and Cassandra are interesting because Cassandra is the lover of Apollo, who then curses her because she doesn't want to be his lover anymore, and she is given first clairvoyance, but then when Apollo curses her, she is still a clairvoyant, but no one believes her. So this means that things will happen, and some people will absolutely know what is going to happen, but no one believes them, unfortunately. Persephone is the daughter of Demeter, and she is a very young and innocent little girl who is raped by Hades and becomes the queen of the underworld. This suggests that there's this big transformation in a feminine archetype, when all of a sudden you become very powerful, all ruling and powerful. And Akhenaten, who was Amenhotep IV, who turned the polytheistic Egyptian society into a monotheistic one, worshipping the sun god, the sun disk, Aten. And it only lasted for 2 generations because his son, Tutankhamun, was murdered by his own general, Horemheb, who became then the pharaoh instead of Akhenaten. Tutankhamun, sorry. So Akhenaten is the ruler who is trying to change an order, and the old order becomes a new order, at least for a while, but then everything is restored. So that's quite fascinating, to say the least. On the moon, you have Minerva, wisdom, and Hieronom. She is one of the centaurs, denoting unconsolable grief. And the moon in mundane charts signifies the people. So here we can be smart or could be wise, but at the same time, the people will suffer some unconsolable grief. Well, if heating and food is taken away from you, believe me, you will feel miserable. So that's unfortunately the case. The North Node has Attila, and also Odysseus. I forgot to put it on the list, but there's Odysseus. So someone who is an adventurer. Let's call him an adventurer. And Attila is, of course, the strong ruler, the general, the fighter. On the South Node, you have Zuben el-Shamari. This is the beta star for Libra. And as you know, alpha and beta stars usually work together in a way that the alpha star shows you the strength, the success of some sort of notion, and then the beta star shows you the shadow energy of the same. And of course, in karmic astrology, these are healing words for certain things. Now, Zuben el-Shamari is the beta star for Libra, and the alpha star is for positive social changes, and the beta star is a healing word for negative social changes. And this signifies the fact that we have done this before. We have ruined our world before. South Node, you should learn from your karma. You should learn from world karma. Are we going to redo it again, or are we going to learn from the shadow, from how can we rectify those negative social changes that happened in the last 10 to 20 years, that everything turned upside down, that there are all sorts of horribly stupid and very dangerous ideologies out there, that people are really crazy and there are crazy ideas. And it's so easy, it would be so easy to live a good life if we just honored nature. I say many, many times that you know, when we talk about green energy, that is what is pushed on our lap, is not green. No, there's no such thing as green energy. Forget about it. This is not how to save the planet. And by the way, the planet doesn't need to be saved. We need to be saved. If you want to do something, do natural things. Use natural resources. Don't pollute nature. But there's no such thing as green energy. That's a hoax. That's a lie. That's a big stupidity. And if you fall for it, good for you. But it's not going to happen. Okay, what's still there? On Astraea, you have Cleopatra, a very strong feminine archetype, Heracles as well, so you have another hero, and Markab, which is the alpha star of Pegasus, the bright ideas coming into your mind, so actually karma-breaking bright ideas, if you are a queen and a hero at the same time. And on Neptune, you have Hermes, the imp, the alchemist, and on the Mercury Lilith, I forgot to put it there, but whatever. If you have the Ginevra, Horus, and Plato, so you have again a wife archetype, Horus, who is fighting darkness, and Plato, who is a philosopher, and Vasat is the star where the two, Gemini, Castor and Pollux are joined by their what is this? I don't know, whatever. Sometimes I'm sorry. I mean, as I said, English is my third language, and sometimes some words are not coming to my mind. Anyhow, elbow. Yes, that's so. They are joined at their elbows, and you can nudge someone with your elbow. You can give signs with your elbow. But Vasat signifies that it's the world where you learn to make decisions, and where you either learn to accept changes or decisions by others, or you learn to make your own changes and decisions. So that's a Gemini. And there's another planetary picture at 24-25 degrees of the signs involving Saturn, the Saturn-Neptune semi-sextile, which is again very strong because the two planets are backwarding, retrograding, and of course Aries. So you have a danger ring here at the tip of which is Neptune, which was also the tip of the crown. So Neptune is really, ideology is really important at this point. Whether you are accepting this morally right ideology that yes, we need to have the Ukrainian people would be helped if the war ended now. That would be the only help. If the West is continuing to pour money and weapons to them, it's going to continue, but they're not going to win because no one has ever won against the Russians. This is something you need to understand. You can demolish the whole world, but you're still not going to win. That's the problem, that a war is always a negative game. A sum total of a war is always negative. At the moment, Europe is being destroyed, actually being destroyed by the Americans, not the people. So it's the American politics that is destroying both America and Europe. And the laughing third party is China and Russia. Bright, really bright, very smart, very bright. Congratulations. Okay, so you have a harmony triangle at the apex of which is Aries, again drastically altered outward circumstances. There's a beautiful Saturn-Venus trine, and Venus is ruling both Uranus and the North Node, so it has a very interesting, important role. And the trine gives us hope that we can stabilize something. And there's also a Neptune Ceres trine. These are the two main trines in this configuration, which means that we can hope that the ideology of our choice will save our home, family, nation. There's a little engine. The engines usually provide stamina, endurance, and the carrying power. So they are quite important. This is a little engine, so there's no trine, only a sextile in it. But it still gives us hope that the Aries-Ceres square, which is the worst aspect in this, the scariest aspect in this configuration, is the disruption of our nurturing principle or our home. That is kind of resolved if we accept Saturn, the basic rules the cornerstones of life and nature. So that's it. And let's take a look at the transcendental celestial objects. On Venus, you find Alnitak. It's one of the belt stars of Orion. And Alnitak is always balancing things. All the belt stars are on the celestial equators. And celestial equator is giving harmony and some kind of balance between the divine and the mundane, so these are nice stars to have. At the same time, also, if you look at the figure of Orion, the belt is actually where the lower body and the higher body of the hero connects. And in Hungarian folklore, the belt, this portion of any drawing or any figure, always suggested that this is where the spiritual and the physical are joined. So the belts are actually carry even that connotation, besides being carrying this divine harmony as well. On Ceres, you have Procyon and Amor. Procyon is the Alpha Canis Minor, so the little dog, and it is usually rising before Sirius, which is the dog star, which is Alpha Canis Major, so the big dog. And although these are two separate constellations, these two stars kind of behave like as if they were the alpha and the beta stars of one constellation, within one constellation. Because what's happening is Procyon, which is a very bright star, which is 0.3 in magnitude, the really bright star, is overshadowed by the appearance a couple of days later by Sirius. So Procyon really behaves like the shadow of Sirius, which is brilliance and accomplishment and magic, and it's one of the strongest stars to have. And Procyon is just it's not negative at all, actually, but it's overshadowed by the power of Sirius, unfortunately. But it's still a bright star, and you have love as well on Ceres, the love of your country, of your nation, of your home, of your parents, of your family. That's what it symbolizes. And on Aries, we finally, I didn't say, yes, I did this. I think we mentioned this. Anyhow, we came to Aries, which has Hestia and Nagasaki. Now, Hestia is great because Hestia is Zeus's older sister, and she is the high priestess. She has this very interesting feminine energy, feminine power that is really relating back to the goddess of the creator goddess, because Hestia refuses to marry any of her brothers, and she wants to stay alone, but she still receives the first part of the offerings, because that's what she requests, and she is granted. So she wields some sort of power that comes from the ancient creator goddess. And in karmic readings, when Hestia is prominent, it denotes the ability to concentrate on one thing and to carry it out in a perfect way. And you have, unfortunately, Nagasaki as well on Aries. And Nagasaki is the second town that was destroyed by the American atomic bomb after when the Second World War, and this effectively ended the Second World War, but it's still a complete annihilation. And on Aries, I really don't like this archetype. At the moment, it's the G20 meeting, and all you hear is stupidity. It's crazy, stupid ideas, cretin, idiotic leaders. They are bickering, they are like children, and they are playing with fire. And the fact that the full moon is carrying Nagasaki on Aries, drastically altered outward circumstances, effectively gives us the threat that one of these idiots are going to push the button that launches the rackets. Hopefully not. I don't want you to get scared. I just want you to be prepared for, of course, no one can be prepared for an atomic attack. If this happens, the world is destroyed effectively, because there's not there's no such thing as a one-sided atomic bomb. There's going to be a complete destruction. Let's hope with this crown energy in the full moon, and with the practicalities of Capricorn, down to earth practicalities of the Capricorn moon, and hopefully nothing will happen. I just needed to tell you this as well, because I didn't like the fact that it was on Aries, and it will be there for at least a week, 10 days. So there's a big window for any kind of threat, starting now, actually. Anyhow, happy full moon, sorry. Happy full moon, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.